The warning unheeded. The message arrived at the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation on what humans would call a Tuesday. It came not through official channels, but via an ancient emergency frequency that hadn't been used in 3 millennia. The communication officers almost dismissed it as background radiation, until the pattern emerged: deliberate, intelligent, desperate. Warning to all spacefaring civilizations. Earth is not what it appears. The humans are not what they seem. Do not provoke them. Do not threaten them. For the sake of galactic peace, leave them alone. The message repeated 12 times before dissolving into static. Its origin: a drifting vessel of unknown design on the outermost edge of the Helios cluster, thousands of light years from Earth. The ship's hull showed evidence of weapons fire unlike anything in Confederation records. High Admiral Zixvel of the Arcturus Dominion scoffed as the recording played for the 7th time before the assembled council representatives of the Galactic Confederation. The chamber, a massive rotunda carved from a hollowed asteroid, held delegates from over 4,000 star systems, all united under the banner of galactic peace and prosperity. Or at least, that was the official narrative. "This is clearly a ruse," Zixvel said, his 6 compound eyes glittering with disdain. "The humans wish to delay the inevitable. They know we've been observing them." Ambassador Ilara of the Pleiadians raised a delicate, 6-fingered hand. "Perhaps we should exercise caution. Our long-range scans show Earth's technology is primitive. True, but they've advanced remarkably quickly. Their civilization is barely 12,000 years old, yet they've already begun rudimentary space exploration." "Precisely," the High Admiral replied. "They are dangerous. All our projections show they will achieve faster than light travel within the next century. Their resource consumption is insatiable. Their population growth exponential. And they wage war constantly among themselves." He gestured to the holographic display showing Earth's history of conflicts. "Imagine such a species unleashed upon the galaxy." Supreme Chancellor Thorndal, the eldest member of the Council and representative of the ancient Draconis species, leaned forward on his crystalline throne. His scaled skin shimmered under the chamber's ambient light. "The Confederation has stood for peace for 20,000 years. Our protocol is clear. Emerging civilizations with warlike tendencies must be contained or guided." The euphemism wasn't lost on anyone present. The question before us is not whether to intervene, but how. Deep in the shadows of the chamber's upper tiers, observer Kira Nix of the reclusive Umbra Collective watched silently. Unlike the others, she had studied Earth not just through data streams and monitoring probes, but through direct observation. For 30 Earth years, she had walked among humans, disguised as one of them. What she had seen troubled her deeply. "The warning should not be dismissed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper yet somehow reaching every corner of the vast chamber. The council members turned, many startled. The Umbra rarely spoke in open council. Earth harbors secrets. The humans have anomalies, inconsistencies in their development that our science cannot explain. High Admiral Zixvel's mandibles clicked with irritation. "Myths and superstitions. The Umbra have always been too fascinated with primitive species." "Not superstitions," Kiranex countered. "Facts. Humans possess cognitive abilities that defy our understanding. Their adaptability exceeds all known biological parameters. And there are indications of dormant genetic potential that—" "Enough," the Supreme Chancellor interrupted. "We will put it to a vote. The options are continued observation, diplomatic contact, or preemptive security action." The vote took less than a minute. Diplomatic overtures were rejected as too risky. Humans had shown aggression toward their own kind for differences as minor as skin pigmentation or geographical origin. Continued observation was deemed insufficient given the rapid pace of human advancement. The decision was made. Preemptive security action, a euphemism for invasion and technological suppression. "The Armada will depart within the lunar cycle," High Admiral Zixvel announced, unable to hide his satisfaction. Earth will be brought into the Confederation for their own good and the safety of the galaxy. As the council dispersed, observer Kira Nix lingered in the shadows. She had not told them everything she knew about Earth. She couldn't. They wouldn't have believed her. But soon they would learn, and by then, it would be too late. The Confederation Armada assembled at the edge of Sol System 90 Earth days later. It was an awe-inspiring display of power. 12 Dreadnought-class warships, each capable of sterilizing a planet's surface. 30 cruisers equipped with reality distortion fields, over 200 fighter carriers, and one enormous world-breaker vessel, a planet killer held in reserve, should the unthinkable become necessary. High Admiral Zixpel stood on the command deck of the flagship, the inevitable Dominion, watching as Earth grew larger on the view screen. Such a small blue world. Such a great potential threat. Primitive detection systems have spotted us, his second-in-command reported. Their global communications are in chaos. Military forces are mobilizing, but as expected, they have no unified planetary defense. Proceed as planned, Zixpel ordered. Standard intimidation protocol. Position the fleet for maximum visibility. Let them see our power, then broadcast the terms of surrender in all their languages. The massive ships moved into Earth orbit in a formation designed to instill terror, a tactic that had worked on countless worlds before. Smaller vessels descended into the atmosphere, positioning themselves above major population centers. Broadcasting now, the communications officer announced. The message was simple: submit to Confederation authority, surrender all nuclear weapons, and cease all space programs. Accept Confederation guidance or face extinction. The humans' response was not what they expected. Instead of panic or immediate capitulation, there was silence. For 23 minutes, no official response came from any Earth government. The Confederation officers watched in confusion as humans on the ground simply waited. Some even appeared to be smiling as they looked up at the ships hovering in their skies. Then, simultaneously across the globe, every electronic system on Earth shut down. Not just government facilities or military installations. Everything. Cities went dark. Satellites fell silent. Even the most basic communication devices ceased functioning. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, the second-in-command suggested. Impossible, the technology officer responded. Our scans showed no capability for a global EMP, and it wouldn't affect our systems anyway. But something was affecting their systems. Across the fleet, communication arrays began malfunctioning. Navigation systems showed conflicting coordinates. Weapons platforms failed diagnostic checks. This is some kind of trick, High Admiral Zixpel snarled. Begin the first wave of landings. Secure their governmental centers. The order was given, but half the fleet never received it. Ships reported bizarre sensor readings. Some claimed to be receiving transmissions from within their own hulls. Others reported crew members acting strangely, speaking in unknown languages or staring unblinking into space. On Earth, the darkness persisted for exactly 1 hour. Then, as suddenly as they had shut down, the lights came back on. But something had changed. Satellite imagery showed new structures had appeared across the planet. Massive installations that hadn't existed before, now standing in deserts, mountains, and oceans. High Admiral, the communications officer called, voice trembling. We're receiving a transmission. From Earth. The view screen flickered, and a single human appeared. An ordinary-looking female with dark skin and eyes that somehow seemed older than her physical appearance suggested. Galactic Confederation, she said, speaking perfect Standard Galactic, a language no human should know. You were warned. Earth is not what it appears. We are not what we seem. High Admiral Zixpel stepped forward. Who are you? How do you know our language? I am Director Amara Chen of Earth Defense Initiative. We've known about the Confederation for centuries. We've been preparing. Impossible, Zixpel hissed. Your species hasn't even achieved faster than light travel. The human smiled, not where you could see it. At that moment, Alarms blared across the flagship. New objects were appearing on scanners, emerging from beneath Earth's oceans, from hidden bases in mountain ranges, from what had appeared to be ordinary cloud formations. Earth ships, thousands of them. Small, sleek vessels that moved in ways that defied the Confederation's understanding of physics. You see, Director Chen continued, humanity has faced extinction many times in our history. We've learned to hide our strengths, to keep secrets, even from ourselves. The first wave of Confederation landing craft were approaching Earth's atmosphere when they encountered the human defense fleet. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. The Earth vessels didn't fire conventional weapons. They simply unmade things. Confederation ships touched by beams of pale blue light didn't explode. They ceased to exist, component by component, systems failing in cascading sequences, as though reality itself rejected their presence. On the command deck of the inevitable Dominion, High Admiral Zixpel watched in horror as a third of his fleet simply disappeared from sensors. "What is this?" he demanded, mandibles clicking furiously. "What technology is this?" "Not technology," Director Chen replied, still visible on the view screen. "At least, not entirely. You see, humanity evolved on a planet that should not exist. Earth sits at a convergence point of 11-dimensional planes. It warps reality in ways subtle enough that we ourselves didn't notice for thousands of years." She paused, looking directly at the High Admiral with eyes that now glowed with an inner light. "We are not simply biological beings. We are reality sculptors, dream shapers. And you've just woken all 8 billion of us up." The second wave of Confederation vessels never launched. Across the fleet, systems were failing, reality itself seeming to bend around them. Crew members reported seeing impossible things, corridors that extended forever, reflections that moved independently, shadows that whispered secrets. "This is your only warning," Director Chen said. "Leave Earth space immediately. Tell your Confederation that humanity is not interested in conquest or conflict. We wish only to be left alone." High Admiral Zixpel, pride shattered but survival instinct intact, gave the retreat order. As the remaining Confederation ships prepared to flee, Observer Kira Nix stepped onto the command deck, having revealed her presence on board. "I tried to tell you," she said softly. "Earth is not what it appears." The High Admiral turned to her, rage and fear battling in his compound eyes. "What are they? What have we awakened?" Karanex looked at the blue planet still visible on the view screen, surrounded now by its previously hidden defense fleet. "The future," she answered simply. "Whether we like it or not." As the Confederation Armada retreated in disarray, Director Amara Chen stood in the Global Defense Hub deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by representatives from every nation. Displays showed the alien ships fleeing, jumping to faster-than-light travel as soon as they cleared the outer planets. "It's begun," she said quietly, "after all our years of hiding, of preparation." Beside her, Professor Eli Kazan, the architect of Earth's defense system, nodded gravely. "They'll be back. Not soon. They'll need time to understand what happened here. But they'll return. And next time, they'll be ready for us." "So will we," Amara replied. "Activate the awakening protocol. It's time humanity embraced what we truly are." Across the planet, in secure facilities hidden from ordinary human knowledge, millions of stasis chambers began the revival process. Within them slept the altered, humans modified over generations to access the full potential of their unique evolutionary heritage. The sleepers were humanity's true defense force, kept hidden until they were needed. Now, they were needed. The Galactic Confederation had made its move. Humanity had revealed its first hand. The real war hadn't even begun. Humanity ascended. 6 months passed before the Galactic Confederation gathered enough courage to address what had happened at Earth. The Grand Council Chamber, once a place of orderly procedure and calculated diplomacy, had descended into chaos. Representatives from 100 star systems shouted over one another, demanding explanations, assurances, or immediate military action. Supreme Chancellor Thorndal struggled to maintain order, his ancient voice nearly lost in the din. Only when observer Kira Nix of the Umbra Collective stepped into the center of the chamber did silence finally fall. "You demanded proof," she said, her normally whisper-soft voice resonating with unusual force. "I have brought it." With a gesture, she activated a holographic projection. The broken remains of the Confederation vessels appeared, floating in the void, their structures warped in ways that defied physical laws. Materials that should have been impervious to any known weapon had been transformed, not destroyed, but fundamentally altered at the atomic level. 3,742 Confederation citizens dead, she continued. 12 ships completely lost. 27 damaged beyond repair. This is the price of arrogance. High Admiral Zixwale, who had survived the disaster only because his flagship had been one of the first to retreat, stood rigid with fury. "The humans must be exterminated," he declared. "They are an infection in the galaxy. We must deploy the world breakers. Sterilize Sol system entirely." Humanity ascendant. 6 months passed before the Galactic Confederation gathered enough courage to address what had happened at Earth. The Grand Council chamber, once a place of orderly procedure and calculated diplomacy, had descended into chaos. Representatives from 100 star systems shouted over one another, demanding explanations, assurances, or immediate military action. Supreme Chancellor Thorndal struggled to maintain order, his ancient voice nearly lost in the din. Only when observer Kira Nix of the Umbra Collective stepped into the center of the chamber did silence finally fall. "You demanded proof," she said, her normally whisper-soft voice resonating with unusual force. "I have brought it." With a gesture, she activated a holographic projection. The broken remains of the Confederation vessels appeared, floating in the void, their structures warped in ways that defied physical laws. Materials that should have been impervious to any known weapon had been transformed, not destroyed, but fundamentally altered at the atomic level. 3,742 Confederation citizens dead, she continued. 12 ships completely lost. 27 damaged beyond repair. This is the price of arrogance. High Admiral Zixwale, who had survived the disaster only because his flagship had been one of the first to retreat, stood rigid with fury. "The humans must be exterminated," he declared. "They are an infection in the galaxy. We must deploy the world breakers, sterilize Sol system entirely." Murmurs of agreement rose from many delegates, but Chancellor Thorndal raised a clawed hand for silence. "And how do you propose we accomplish this, Admiral? Your fleet, the pride of the Confederation, was decimated without the humans firing a single conventional weapon. We'll send more ships, all ships, every vessel in the Confederation if necessary." Hiranix shook her head slowly. "You still don't understand. What you encountered was not the extent of Earth's capabilities. It was a warning shot." She turned to face the entire council, her eyes, normally hidden beneath her cowl, now visible and glowing with an inner light that made many delegates shift uncomfortably. "I have walked among humans for decades. I have studied them, lived with them, learned their secrets. What you witnessed was merely the surface of their potential. They have kept themselves hidden, divided, apparently primitive, by choice. On Earth, the Awakening Protocol had transformed human civilization almost overnight. The stasis chambers had opened worldwide, releasing the altered, millions of humans who had been genetically and neurologically enhanced over generations, then hidden away until they were needed. The secret history of humanity unfurled like a dark flower. For millennia, a shadow organization, calling itself simply the Vanguard, had recognized humanity's unique potential and worked to protect it, enhance it, and conceal it from both alien observers and the broader human population. Director Amara Chen stood on the observation deck of Olympus Station, Earth's first publicly acknowledged orbital defense platform, watching as the next generation of human ships conducted maneuvers that would have been considered impossible 6 months ago. Beside her, Professor Eli Kazan monitored the exercises through his neural interface, his eyes flickering with data streams. "The Confederation will return," Amara said, not looking away from the viewport. "Our intelligence network beyond Sol confirms they're building a new fleet. Something bigger." Eli nodded, his expression grim. "The awakened integration is proceeding faster than projected. 97% of the population has now accepted the neural interface. Global unification stands at 84%. "Not enough," Amara replied. "We need complete unity. The Confederation won't underestimate us again." Some still resist. They fear what we're becoming. Amara finally turned from the viewport, her eyes, like those of all who had accepted the full neural upgrade, glowing with a subtle inner light. "What we've always been, Eli. The mask is simply coming off now. In the depths of Earth's oceans, in hardened bunkers beneath mountains, and in orbital facilities hidden from conventional detection, the planet's true defense systems continued to come online. Not just weapons, but reality-altering technologies that the average human couldn't have comprehended 6 months ago. The Vanguard had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years, selectively guiding human evolution, preserving and developing technologies far beyond what was publicly known, all while maintaining the charade of a divided, primitive species. Now the charade was over. 3 months later, the Confederation's new fleet arrived at the edge of Sol's system. It dwarfed the previous armada: 50 dreadnoughts, 200 cruisers, over 1,000 support ships, and 5 world breakers, a force capable of reducing multiple star systems to atomic dust. This time, High Admiral Zix Val had been overruled. The fleet was under the command of Grand Marshal Krell, a legendary tactician from the Basilisk Dominion, known for never having lost a campaign in 3 centuries of service. His orders were simple: neutralize the Earth threat with minimal Confederation casualties. Preserve human specimens for study if possible, but planetary preservation was not a priority. Grand Marshal Krell studied the holographic representation of Sol's system, his reptilian features impassive. "Status report," he commanded. "No response to our arrival," his second reported. "No detectable defense grid activation. Earth appears unchanged since our last observations." Krell's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Deploy long-range scanners. Full spectrum analysis." The results were puzzling. Earth's technology appeared to have regressed. The defense fleet that had decimated the previous Confederation force was nowhere to be seen. Cities showed decreased energy signatures. Space installations appeared abandoned. Could they have destroyed themselves? An officer suggested. Some species do, when faced with the knowledge they're not alone. "No," Krell said firmly. "This is a deception. Deploy probe drones. Full stealth protocol." Thousands of microscopic probes were launched toward Earth, designed to penetrate planetary defenses undetected. None returned. Krell ordered a second wave. Again, none returned. "They're waiting for us to come to them," he realized. "Very well. Prepare the world breakers. We'll strike from maximum range. No boarding parties, no ground assault." As the 5 planet-killing vessels moved into formation, a single communication request came from Earth. Against his better judgment, Krell authorized the connection. The face that appeared on the command deck's view screen was human, but different from those in Confederation records. A male with skin like burnished copper and eyes that glowed with an intense blue light. "Grand Marshal Krell," the human said. "I am Sentinel Prime Torvald, Unified Defense Coordinator of Earth. We've been expecting you." Krell didn't bother with pleasantries. "Your species has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. Surrender now, and some of your population may be preserved." The human's expression didn't change. "You misunderstand your situation, Marshal. We allowed your probes to penetrate our outer defenses because we wanted you to see something." The view screen split, showing the feed from one of the probe drones before it had gone offline. The images made even Krell's cold blood run colder. Earth had changed fundamentally. Cities had been replaced with vast crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. The oceans teemed with massive engineering projects extending deep below the surface, and in orbit around the planet was a ring, a megastructure that hadn't been there before, composed of material that seemed to bend light around it. What you're seeing, Torvald continued, is approximately 15% of our current civilization. The rest exists in dimensional spaces your science hasn't conceptualized yet. On the command deck, officers exchanged nervous glances. Krell remained stoic. "Your deceptions don't intimidate us," he said. "If you've advanced so quickly, why hide it? Why maintain the facade of a primitive world?" "Because we weren't ready yet," Torvald replied simply. "Humanity needed time to fully awaken, to understand what we are." He paused, his glowing eyes seeming to look through Krell rather than at him. "We still don't fully comprehend our potential, but we know this. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a dimensional nexus point, a place where realities intersect." He leaned closer to the screen. "And humans aren't just evolved primates. We're the biological manifestation of that intersection. Reality sculptors, born at the crossroads of what is and what could be." As he spoke, sensors across the Confederation fleet began registering anomalies. Space itself seemed to warp around the vessels. What had appeared to be empty void now shimmered with structures that hadn't been there moments before, or perhaps had always been there, simply undetectable until now. Earth's defense fleet hadn't disappeared. It had evolved beyond conventional reality. "This is your final opportunity, Marshal," Torvald said. "Return to your Confederation. Tell them Earth wishes to establish diplomatic relations, as equals, not as subjects. Tell them we have no interest in conquest or aggression. We desire only to explore our potential and our place in the universe." Krell was a veteran of 100 campaigns, a being who had ordered the destruction of entire civilizations without remorse when strategy demanded it. But something in the human's voice, a certainty beyond confidence, gave him pause. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Torvald's expression showed genuine regret. "Then we'll be forced to demonstrate capabilities we ourselves find unsettling." Before Krell could respond, alarms blared across the command deck. Officers rushed to their stations, calling out reports in panicked voices. "Sir, the world breakers, they are changing." On the tactical display, the 5 planet-killing vessels were transforming. Not being destroyed or damaged, but literally changing form, metal and energy reorganizing into new configurations. "Impossible," Krell whispered. "Not impossible," Torvald corrected. "Simply beyond your current understanding. Your world breakers are now environmental restoration vessels. Their fundamental purpose has been rewritten." As the Confederation officers watched in horror, the transformed ships turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the outer planets of Sol system. Their weapons systems gone, replaced with terraforming equipment. "What have you done?" Krell demanded. "Demonstrated restraint," Torvald replied. "We could have done the same to your entire fleet. Instead, we chose to show you what's possible when our abilities are used for creation rather than destruction." The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that could rewrite the fundamental nature of matter and energy. That could transform weapons into tools with a thought. That existed partially in dimensions beyond conventional reality. Grand Marshal Krell had led campaigns against civilizations capable of Dyson spheres, black hole manipulation, and stellar engineering. But this was different. This wasn't advanced technology. This was something else entirely. "The Confederation must know," he said finally. "We must understand what we're facing." Torvald nodded. "We agree. That's why we're extending an invitation. Send your scientists, your philosophers, your diplomats. Learn what we are, what we're becoming. Help us understand it ourselves." He gestured, and a small data package transferred to the Confederation flagship. "These are coordinates for a neutral meeting ground, 1 month from now. By your time measurements, we'll be waiting." The transmission ended, leaving the Confederation command deck in stunned silence. 3 days later, the remains of the Grand Fleet limped back into Confederation space, minus the 5 transformed world-breakers, which had remained in Sol system, now peacefully terraforming Mars and Venus under human direction. The Grand Council convened immediately upon receiving Grand Marshal Krell's report. The chamber, so chaotic before, was now deathly quiet as the recordings from Sol system played. When they concluded, Supreme Chancellor Thorndal rose slowly from his crystalline throne, looking every one of his 1,000 years. In 20,000 years of Confederation history, he said, his ancient voice barely above a whisper, we have never encountered a species like humanity. They are not merely a threat. They are an extinction-level event waiting to happen. High Admiral Zixvale, still burning with humiliation from his defeat, stepped forward. Then we must strike with everything we have. The entire Confederation fleet, every weapon in our arsenal. And achieve what? Observer Kira Nix asked, materializing from the shadows as was her kind's way. They transformed 5 world-breakers with a thought. What would they do if truly provoked to anger? The chamber erupted in arguments, theories, and increasingly desperate proposals. Only Chancellor Thorndal remained silent, his ancient eyes focused on something distant, perhaps seeing patterns in time that others could not. Finally, he raised a clawed hand, and silence fell once more. We will accept their invitation, he declared. I will go myself, with a delegation of our finest minds. We will learn what humanity is becoming. And then we will decide. On Earth, Director Amara Chen and Sentinel Prime Torvald stood in the Hall of Awakening, where the first of the Altered had emerged from stasis 6 months earlier. Around them, holographic displays showed the ongoing transformation of human civilization, cities rebuilding themselves into forms that blended technology and biology, oceans being cleansed of centuries of pollution, the first interstellar vessels preparing to venture beyond Sol. Was it wise to reveal so much? Amara asked. We've exposed our greatest advantage. Torvald shook his head. Not our greatest. Merely the first layer of what we're becoming. The Vanguard has guided us for thousands of years, preparing us for this moment, when humanity would finally understand its true nature. He turned to face her, his glowing eyes meeting hers. We're not just defenders of Earth anymore, Amara. We're custodians of something larger. The dimensional convergence point that created us exists for a reason. Perhaps this is it, to bridge realities, to reshape what's possible. In the vastness of space at the edge of Sol system, the transformed world breakers continued their work, turning dead worlds green again. And beyond, in the silence between stars, ripples of change spread outward, reality itself responding to humanity's awakening. The galaxy would never be the same. The warning had been ignored. Earth had been threatened. And humanity had shown just a glimpse of what it truly was. The universe held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next.